Hey, welcome back. I am glad to be here on this channel interviewing Adam Melnyk from Seeding the Lead. He is a leadership coach at Seeding the Lead. And today, we're just going to have a conversation all about self-care. Adam, what is self-care and why is it important?
Self-care is incredibly important. And what pisses me off is I was searching TikTok the other day, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and the amount of people that get self-care wrong kind of annoys me.
Okay, so let's set the record straight. What's self-care?
Self-care is anything that kind of fills you with energy.
Okay.
Full stop. That's the basics of the basics.
But we're not talking about like cocaine or energy drinks.
No? Those give you energy and then suck it dry down the road.
Okay. So what would be a healthy self-care thing to do?
Well, when you look at self-care, the best thing to think about is your body is essentially a machine. And this machine has a battery.
All right.
As you go throughout your day, things are going to come up that are going to just take energy out of your battery. For example, work takes energy out of me. Weightlifting takes energy out of me. Talking with somebody who is troubled or having a tough time takes energy out of me. At the end of the day, I'll have zero energy, which means I'm exhausted, I'm depleted. Self-care is when you start doing activities that put energy back into yourself and recharges your battery, which is incredibly important because if you're not careful, you'll run out of energy and then bad things happen at that point.
Okay, like what?
So individuals that tend to neglect the self-care, they run on an empty battery. Short term, not a whole lot happens. Long term, though, this is where we start seeing a lot of agitation, anger. This usually comes from this idea that I have no energy, so I need to push you away to kind of protect myself. We also see a lot of frustration, rapid mood swings. So they can go from happy and jolly to incredibly angry to sad the next day to incredibly depressed. And that's just because they're at the end of the rope. If you continue to neglect your self-care, then we start looking at risks of burnout and possibly hospitalization, which is never fun.
Okay, so what would be some practices that people do? What would be a good example of self-care? Let's go to that. Because when I hear that term self-care, it sounds very, frou-frou, very weird. I kind of don't like that word. What would be a definition of something that could be used as self-care?
Well, it's funny. So I'm just going to go back a little bit.
Sure.
The whole frou-frou around self-care, I get it. I call it the cult of mental health, where they take actual mental health terms and then they co-opt it into selling your product or selling you a service when they're not actually practicing mental health in any way, shape, or form. It's also quite annoying. When we look at self-care, the very basics of self-care is diet. Are you eating 3 meals a day? Do you have fruits and vegetables in your diet? Are you eating carbohydrates and protein? The next is sleep. How are you sleeping? The average person needs between 7 to 9 hours of sleep regularly. If you're not getting that, bad things are happening. You are fundamentally impaired. As one person once said to me, they said, I get 5 hours of sleep regularly. I'm like, that's as if you drank 2 pints of beer before you even started your day, like straight out the gate. The next is physical activity, making sure that you're working out, making sure that you're physically active, go running. Your body is a machine. It needs to be used. The next one is friends and family. Are you talking to people that you can offload your problems onto, that you can work through problems? This is the basics of self-care. Once you have the basics, then we start getting into things that make you feel good, that actually energize you. For example, for myself, I love great conversations. In-depth conversations energize me. What takes energy out of me is shopping. I hate shopping because then I have to choose, I have to decide, and I get decision fatigue, and then I'm exhausted by the end of it. However, if at the end of a shopping trip, I have a great conversation, then I get energized and puts energy back into my battery.
Well, that's interesting. For me, I think one of the best ways that I can recharge my batteries is alone time. alone time, because I am not really an extroverted person. So having conversations with a lot of different people, crowds, just takes the energy right out of me. I don't thrive in that. Whereas my wife is the exact opposite. She loves crowds, loves talking to people, could stay talking and chatting and that for hours and hours. We're complete opposites on that. And yeah, I think the exercise thing, eating right, getting sleep, all those things make sense. And it doesn't make it sound granola and weird, right? Because that's the thing with these terms that people come up with, like, oh, I'm practicing self-care. It's like, dude, you're just, if you're doing it like the way that you're describing, basically you're just doing what normal humans should be doing on a regular basis and not trapped in our 24/7, 365 electronic doomscape, right?
Well, and the biggest problem that I see is people use the term self-care to justify terrible habits. For example, I remember one woman who's like, I practice self-care by shopping. Like, that's not self-care. That's just justifying spending money that you don't have, because you still get the bill at the end of the day, and then you're exhausted because you have to deal with the consequences of your actions. That is not self-care.
Yeah, I just bought myself a Porsche for self-care. No, that's not the proper way to do it. Okay, so working with your clients, maybe some people don't have, the right idea of what they should be doing in order to take care of themselves. So what do you do? What do you work with your clients?
So what I do is I kind of take a look at where they're at. And typically the question I'm going to be asking now is, are you in balance? If you are out of balance, if you're working too hard and not taking care of yourself, we're going to start peeling back the layers. Awesome. How many hours are you sleeping? When was your last meal? Are you working out? And just like, for example, yourself, many of my leaders are mentally very busy and they need to build in quiet time, very mundane quiet time. For example, how I know that they need to build in that quiet time is I ask, do you have shower thoughts? Like, when you get in the shower, do you have like all these profound ideas that you just can't get out of your head? Or even before you go to bed, do you just feel like you have these amazing ideas at that moment? And sometimes they're like, yeah, I do. It's like, that's because you're overstimulated and we need to quiet down your day and build in the quiet time. So what I do is I kind of take a step back. I look at their life as a whole, as opposed to an individual part, and start looking for signs that maybe they're on the road to burnout, maybe they're on the road to some nasty stuff, and then start asking questions and being curious to figure out where are the holes and how do we start plugging those holes so that they can live happy, productive lives.
So for self-care, maybe do you have a list of other ways that self-care or the lack thereof can be detrimental to someone's mental health and physical health? Maybe some tips for people who are watching. That'd be awesome.
Well, when it comes to self-care, if you neglect it, I've seen people neglect it. I had one gentleman, we'll call him Evan. Evan led a very stressful life. He was a family man. He was the manager of a healthcare center, and he was working very hard. He was working 16 hours every single day. He was not taking care of his body. Evan, unfortunately, ran into a wall and burnt out hard to the point that he was what we call in the medical field, manic. He was talking super fast. It's called pressured speech, where he was just trying to get his words out as fast as he possibly could. He was erratic. He was irrational. And unfortunately, we had to take Evan into the hospital and say, Evan's not doing well. And he had to stay in the hospital for a week just to say, all right, you are not doing well. We need to get you stabilized and help you reevaluate your life, because where you're going is nowhere good.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, like, it's a job, it's work, right? And I think if you're doing work that energizes you and you're excited about and you feel good about doing that work, then it doesn't really feel like work. But if you're doing something that isn't in your vein of, joy or brings excitement to your life or you feel fulfillment in, that probably adds some outside stress that you could probably avoid if you had a different position. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not the expert. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes when it comes to self-care, it's understanding that the whole goal of life is to come out the other side intact. And if you're burning the candle at both ends, that might not be possible. And so it's looking at your life and saying, okay, what is actually important here? What can we let go of? What can we reorganize so that we can come out the other side intact?
Well, and you got to do stuff that matters, right? I think if you're working on things that just don't really matter and it's a lot of busyness without results, that can, I think, affect your mental health in that, I'm doing all of this, but what the heck am I doing it for, right? What is the purpose and meaning behind what I'm doing? And I think that coming to that realization is important for people to do. So if they're doing something that they don't enjoy, they don't see, they're not seeing results, and they don't seem to be having any impact, it means they feel they don't have an effective life, or they're using their life well. So like, what am I on this planet for? What am I doing with this, right? So what would you say to someone like in that situation?
At that situation, I'm saying to them, where do you want your life to be in 5 years? What do you want your life to look like? Do you want to continue down this road? You know what this road leaves you. You've already been there. You've done that. You will just have more of what you've had in the past. The question is, what do you want your life to look like? One of the big coaching questions that I ask for individuals that are really stuck is, imagine you're on your deathbed and you're looking back at this point in your life. What was your biggest regret? And that really gets people going, hey, I worked too hard. I did this and it wasn't right for me. I need to make those changes now.
Well, I think that this, from my perspective anyway, I think, hard work there's a reward in doing that, right? There's a reward in working hard. A reward in actually breaking your body down to the point where it doesn't function anymore. That's not wise. I think working hard on something that has meaning isn't so detrimental, because there's been, a lot of times when I've been working hard and like physically and mentally and whatnot, and it actually kind of provides some energy, as opposed to if you're just working hard for no reason, you've got no purpose, then that's when I reach the point of like, what the heck is this, right? Why am I doing this?
It's funny you say that, because CEOs and executives love work. Mm-hmm. They get energized by work, and they're almost workaholics. The only time I usually ever step in at that point is if they want more out of their life. For example, they're saying my family is kind of crumbling at home, or I would love to get into hobbies and I don't have the time. It's like, awesome. Let's work on that together. However, if you're completely happy with what's going on in life, you love the trajectory you're going on, you're working towards a dream, you're being energized. Keyword is energized. It's filling your battery, not draining you. Then absolutely keep going with it. But if you're looking for more out of life and you can't quite fit it in, that's when we have to have the conversation, discussion of like, okay, how do we make this work?
Yeah. And I mean, if you're speaking to business owners, right, and they're doing some things that maybe sucks the juice out of them, things that drain their battery, maybe that's something that they could delegate or hire someone else to do, right? So they can focus on the things that actually jazz them up, give them energy, and all the things that drain their energy and kind of suck, they can hire somebody who's energized by that kind of work, right? And that's the beauty of, entrepreneurship is eventually you can hire to have people do the things that you no longer wish to do or that you've never really enjoyed in the work, right? So I guess that, hiring other people would probably be a version of self-care in the definition.
Absolutely. Because, and when it comes to hiring people, it's understanding, it's like, okay, what tasks are taking energy out of you? What tasks do you not enjoy? It's like, delegate them. Get them off of your plate. I know, for example, many doctors hate doing their paperwork, and so they hire a receptionist to deal with that. And it helps them free up their energy so that they can put it somewhere else.
Yeah. And right now with AI, like you can dictate your notes to AI and it can actually write things up for you and summarize it better than you could, right? So I think there's a lot of tools that people can use to help them with that. Of course, it's not going to replace you, but it can help you just streamline that process, right? So what else would be important for people to know about self-care?
When it comes to self-care and I start teaching it, especially with my clients who are terrible with self-care, like I'm currently working with a workaholic at the moment, and he is for sure burning the candle at both ends. And so we're starting to talk about self-care. How do we put energy back into you so you don't end up in the hospital? And in talking with him, one of the things I see is he wants to do all of it all at once. And that's not how we go. We start off small and then we end big. So when it comes to self-care, if you're just starting out, typically what I always recommend is go for a walk for 30 minutes. But don't put a podcast on, don't listen to music, just go for a walk and be present. The reason I want you to do this is one, there's physical activity. So now we're moving our bodies, we're going to get some endorphins from that. And then two, we're going to give our brain a break so it can recharge and process what happened throughout our day and it can relax. After that, then we can start building onto that. Be like, okay, maybe the gym down the road, or maybe we look at diet and exercise, or maybe we look at who you can talk to about difficult problems or issues. Maybe we can look beyond that, but we always start very small and then we end big.
Yeah. And, just a thought, maybe, if they're working on a project and they're an intense person, they do a lot of work. Maybe they just do it in sprints, right? So they'll do it in 20-minute sprints of really focused work, and then they can take a 5-minute break and then work in another 20-minute sprint and then take another 5-minute break kind of thing, just to break things up so that they're not, overtaxing. Because I know, like right now, the position that I'm in, I don't do a lot of physical activity, whereas my previous career was all physical activity. Well, this career is mainly, mental, right? So I'm burning a lot of brain calories, and at the end of the day, it's kind of, I can't carry on a conversation very well. Let's just put it that way. So, in that case, what would be a recommendation for that kind of person, to where, they're not using maybe physical energy, but using a lot of mental energy? What could be some scenarios that would be helpful in that position?
In regards with mental energy, it's one, building in that quiet time, but two, introducing a changing dynamic. For example, if you're talking with somebody for an hour, maybe the next 20 minutes, you're no longer talking to somebody. You're doing something else. Maybe it's paperwork. And then after that, you're doing something different. Maybe you're going for a walk, because your brain is essentially a sponge. It can only absorb or do so much at one time, and then you have to let it relax. However, if you're constantly shifting and changing tasks and things that you're doing, and they're, especially if those tasks are not similar to each other, your brain can absorb a lot more and can expend a lot more energy than if you just talked with somebody for 8 hours straight. My God, that sounds exhausting.
Yeah, that would not be my idea of a dream job, that's for sure.
Yeah, 1 out of 10 would not recommend.
1 out of 10, yeah, definitely. Okay, so regarding self-care, is there anything else that you would like to share with your audience, or anything that stood out in the conversation that might be helpful for them?
I think the biggest thing for people to remember is, if you're getting home and you feel drained all the time, if you're feeling exhausted, in the morning you can barely get out of bed, at that point, it's time to take a step back and look at what's going on in your life, and potentially start asking yourself the big question of, when is my time? When do I get to sit down and recharge? If the answer is never, we got to work on that.
I just thought about something. I was thinking about, maybe it's someone who is a single parent, right? Either a dad or a mom, or maybe they have the kids part-time, and, they really do have to work 1 or 2 jobs, come home, take care of the kids, do the house cleaning, and all that stuff. And, what would be some practical things that someone in that position could do to practice a little bit of, recharging their batteries?
So in regards with parents, And having children, working their 2 jobs, it is challenging. And this is where we start getting very creative. For example, the bathroom can be a very sacred place. And so we often talk about, awesome, let's go have a bath for 10 to 20 minutes and have the kids somewhere else. Give them to mom or dad if you can. Maybe give them to a family member. It doesn't matter. Just to build in just a little bit of quiet time, just a little bit of downtime. Or it comes into the idea of you are driving to and from work. Don't listen to the radio. Don't turn on the podcast. Build in the quiet time is the big thing. And then on top of that, it's understanding that when you are going out and you're buying clothes for the kids, if you're going out and doing things for your family, understand it's like, oh, you are also part of this family. Buy something for yourself, something that you would like, a small thing. Because what I see with a lot of parents is they often sacrifice themselves for the good of the family. It's like, well, no, you deserve this too. Maybe go buy yourself a Kit Kat. You deserve it. It's small. It's not going to cost you a lot. It's something special. It's something unique. And it'll make you happy. And so it's looking for creative ways just to recharge your battery, even if it's small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And doing your best to try and get sleep.
Yes.
Try and get sleep. It's tough, especially if you got small kids, young ones at home, because they demand your attention all the time, right? Because they need you. They want you. They want to be around you. They want to be touching you or near you almost 100% of the time when they're little, right? So I guess you do the best that you can with that scenario.
It's funny you say that because I was working with a parent and they were saying to me, I get no sleep. I'm like, okay, do you nap? He goes, I could never nap. I'm like, well, no, you're going to start napping now. Let's start building in a nap cycle into your day just to get some sleep. Yeah. And it blew his mind. And so we started practicing just naps throughout the day. He was starting to nap 2 to 3 times throughout the day because he was getting on average maybe 4 hours of sleep at nighttime.
Yikes.
So I was like, no, we're napping a lot today. And he comes back and goes, I feel so much better. I'm like, I know you do.
Wow. Okay. So napping is a thing. That's good. So if you got something out of this video, please like and subscribe and get in touch with Adam Melnyk from Seeding the Lead and have a consultation, have a sit down, have a chat. What is your offer right now?
My offer right now is I'm offering a free 4-week coaching session where we sit down, we identify where you want to go in life, your big goal, and then we start breaking that big goal down into easily manageable steps each week to start moving you in the direction that you want to go. Completely free. And then after that, we'll get you to where you want to go.
All right. So there you have it, folks. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers.